there folks, just gonna run Burrow the Phoenix Chaos. I've actually already run this, but I just figured I'd do another vid with with a bit of voice commentary. So, I mean, I usually don't like doing audio commentary because I suck at thinking and talking at the same time. But it's been brought to my attention that sometimes, it helps, especially newer players, to just get some idea of what the hell is going through people's heads when they make the choices that they do. So, shout out to Joseph here. Well, Joseph with the IR, YouTuber. He released a video recently with some life hacks and tips and tricks, and some of them were pertaining to chaos. And I mean, he and I do very similar things. I think most people who do chaos do the same thing. But I mean, for the sake of people who still struggle through chaos, right? Here's an idea of what I generally think about when I set up for a chaos. So before I even start the chaos, I take a long hard squint at at the boss notes over here, right? So on the enemies tab, you have all the enemies that you're gonna face in this. The one downside of this thing is that they don't tell you exactly how many enemies you're going to face. So sometimes you can go into a fight expecting just one enemy, and then you end up with a multi-target, and then you're like, shit, actually I should have brought an AoE DPS, right? So that's the one thing that you don't get. But other than that, these boss notes are invaluable because they tell you who you can and cannot bring, right? This part especially, this top part, it tells you who is locked out. Anytime you see, there's elemental resistances, then you don't want to bring any characters that, have those elements. Sure, there's Imperil, but then even if you imperil those elements, it just brings it down to neutral, which is kind of pointless, right? So I mean, the Phoenix being a Phoenix is obviously resistant to fire, so you don't want to be bringing Lulu or Jekt, right? And of course, there's Holy Resist as well, so you don't want to be bringing Yuri, right? Right. So all these resistances, you just always want to take note of, right? The resistances here also matter, right? For example, this one tells me that I'm probably not going to want to bring Vanille, simply because, well, yeah, I mean, Vanille's whole shtick is that she's got one of the strongest defense down debuffs in the entire game. And a pretty strong attack down debuff as well, but both of those are resisted, so that's kind of pointless there, right? Although you can still use her on the other two waves, but I mean, why would you, right? The last thing when looking at these boss notes is you always want to take a scan through, so once you figured out, okay, these are the characters that are locked out, right? Then you want to take a scan through the moves that each enemy has, right? Because every fight has a sort of central gimmick, as I like to call it, and you can get an idea of what that central gimmick is by looking at A, the choice of synergy characters, and B, the boss notes, right, of the moves that they do. And in this particular case, it's fairly fucking obvious what the gimmick is. As you can see, inflicts poison, inflicts more poison, as well as speed down. Not only do they inflict speed down, they also inflict turn rate down, so they slow you down, and then they take away your turns, and then they inflict attack down. So all of this together can be pretty darn debilitating, right? This guy also, poison all over the fucking place. Speed down, attack down. Right, and this attack down, by the way, lasts for a good 10 turns if it lands. And then you've got poison, attack down, it's all the same thing. So if you let it, these will slow you down so much because it gimps your damage so much. So that tells you, I mean, you need to bring some form of debuff prevention. I mean, there's a reason why Selphie is synergy for this. Right, so either bring Selphie or Ignis is the other one. My initial runs actually involved Ignis because he's my purple character. I can't justify putting ingots on Selphie because usually I prefer to use other supports, namely Rosa and Penelo. And so I feel like Selphie's just weaker than those two. She's solid. She's great. I love her, but in most of the cases outside of DE, I'm gonna be using Penelo or Rosa, and I've already locked Selphie into DE using her base X. I used her on tier 6. So like, given the sheer number of characters that I've purpled this month, I can't bring myself to spend it. So Selphie is actually at base realization, so 0LB. I did throw a book at her just for the ingot, but I have not actually invested any ingots in her. But yeah, so anyway, back to the boss notes, right? So you want to bring some form of debuff prevention. Failing that, at the very least, debuff cleansing. So Yuna, if you lack either Ignis or Selphie. I guess you could try using Lena or Aphmau, but Lena not having her EX plus and Aphmau not even having X. Both of those are going to be fairly difficult to carry. So yeah, you can try, but it's gonna be tough, especially because of something that I'm gonna show you guys as well later on, right? Things that I also like to take note of is like, so, you know, here it's fairly obvious what the gimmick is. Like I said, occasionally you get things like, oh, okay, if they break you, they get another turn. So that tells you that, you know, you probably want to bring a tank or some form of defense up or attack down, right? Because yeah, so anytime you have those characters on a banner, guaranteed you're gonna get enemies that if they break you, they kill you, right? So you want to look out for those kinds of things. Or sometimes, very frequently when you have banners involving strong buffers, attack buffers especially, those people with attack auras, you will notice you will notice that the bosses have a tendency to buff themselves a lot. Like here you do still see buffs, but they're still reasonable, right? But when you notice that, okay, you've got defense up, again defense up, chances are very high they're expecting you to bring someone who can up attack or someone who can reduce defense, right? Because without it, then you're gonna end up hitting for like 0 or 1 brave damage. So that's what we saw with, say, the Deuce's LC, right? Because Deuce's whole shtick was that she increases, if I remember correctly anyway, she increases magic damage, right? So, you know, you buff the attack so that it can overcome the rise in defense. So, or, you know, whenever you see Dispellers, you inevitably get a boss that becomes invincible when it buffs itself, and then the only way of being able to do damage to it again is to remove that buff, right? So like after a while, it gets very clear what they expect you to do, and then you just play around with it because there are multiple Dispellers out there, there are multiple tanks out there, so you don't have to use the exact synergy character. You just need to use whatever character allows you, like helps you to deal with that particular gimmick of the day, right? The last thing to take note of is always take a look at the turn count and the score requirements. When you see this sort of thing, you have what is essentially 4 waves of bosses. Like you don't get, there are no trash waves here. All of these are bosses. These guys are from Renoa's LC. This is from Lena's LC. This is from Locke's, right? These are all bosses. And I said 4 waves because the Phoenix, by the way, there we go, right? When taking damage that would incapacitate, in other words, when you normally KO it, what it does is it removes own debuffs, restores all HP. So it basically revives once. So the Phoenix actually counts as 2 waves all on its own, really. So you've got 4 waves of bosses essentially. And yet, you only have 95 turns and a fairly fucking high score threshold. The moment you see these two things, they're expecting one or two things from you. They either expect you to use a character that has a lot of free turns, like, well, Vayne, Arnea, King, I guess, Ultimecia, of course, right? Those are the classics. Or they're expecting you to bring some form of off-turn damage. And if you get a very high score threshold, you know that they are specifically expecting you to bring a launcher. Because launchers boost score, even more than reducing turn count, to be very honest. Like, if you want to rely on turn count to meet this sort of score, you're going to need to bring your turn count, suppress your turn count to about, I would say, 10 to 15 turns below the stated requirements. If you bring a launcher, you can get within, I would say, 2 to 3 turns and still meet the score. Launchers boost score tremendously, and you can tell when they expect you to bring a launcher when you see this sort of high score threshold and the tight turn requirement. So every time a launcher features on a banner, like, it's fairly obvious. Right? You saw it with Tifa's when Tifa got her realization. You can see it every time Cloud is on a banner. You can see it now that Dark Knight Cecil is on this banner. So this is always a fairly good thing to also just take note of right at the beginning of the mission. All right. So last thing is summon. So remember that summons also, you should also choose to summon based on whatever resistances are there, or rather, like, you know, stay away from specific summons depending on the resistances. In this particular case, no one's resisting Pandemonium, and I'm bringing Layle. So Pandemonium is the launch summon basically. If you're not bringing Layle, bring probably Shiva would probably be your best bet because she ups attack as well as speed. Leviathan's another good one because he provides both, he reduces the speed of the enemies, as well as if you take HP damage, it triggers Brave Regen, and the Brave Regen actually stays for the rest of battle. So that can actually be pretty helpful. Brothers is who I like to bring whenever I have two batteries on a team. So one of my favorite teams is Ultimecia, Rosa, and Sarah, and those have batteries out the wazoo. So at that point, I tend to bring brothers in order to up that brave cap and therefore be able to hold more brave and do more damage. Ramus, lesser used these days, but like he's still pretty handy, especially for those fights. Like I said, sometimes you have bosses that if they manage to break you, they will kill you, and Ramus good for that, for at least reducing that brave damage a little bit and helping you stay away from breaks. Although you probably still do better with a tank, but you know, it helps. And he's also raises max brave. So in the event that, say, Brothers is resisted, and you want to raise max brave, you can bring Ramu instead. But since I have Layle, we're gonna be doing Pandemonium. So friend for this is going to be Aranea, for the very specific purpose of taking care of the first wave, because that first wave is a multi-target wave, and yeah, Aranea is basically queen of AoE at the moment. Ultimate is pretty good too, but well, if we're going for friend, well. So I'm going to pause here and then restart the recording because my phone has a habit of auto-cutting the recording every time it reaches beyond a certain file size, and it happens somewhere in the 24th minute. And sometimes it can cut right smack in the middle of the move, which is annoying, so I'm just gonna pause here and then restart. Okay, so just gonna open with Nightwave, put up wall, and then I'm gonna swap Layle out immediately. Why? Because Layle can't work with 3 targets on the field. Like, there are no good launches that he can get. It's pointless. So May as well just swap Aranea in, have her take care of the minions. Also gonna be spamming Vayne's skills. Because the thing about these minions is that after a certain point, as you can see, they start to buff the boss with HP regen. And like it wastes everyone's time. If you let them get the HP regen off, like this wave just takes so much longer. So don't let it happen. Just kill it fast. One more Dragoon dive and we're done. Okay, I think. So remember that Tree of Selphie Plus will not refresh Vayne stacks, so that is a waste, so just use up his 2 free turns. And then Tree of Selphie. Okay, good. Okay. So field burst. Hurrah! Yeah, it's okay. Why not? Okay, let's see. Okay, so here's a useful trick because notice energy gain moves Layle's turn, and sometimes it moves Layle's turn all the way in, so that instead of getting Selphie in the chase, you just end up with Layle, Vayne, and because it's Layle again, like you can't have Layle appear twice. So then that would be a waste of an energy gain. So for moves with high turn rates like Layle's energy gain, or Yuna's Asuna, or Yushtola's Stone, or Sarah's, or both of Sarah's skills, right? Or Warrior of Light's, both of Warrior of Light's shield skills. It's worthwhile just long pressing to check where they're gonna end up in the turn order. Right? Sometimes like weird stuff happens and like their turn order changes despite your best attempts. So yeah, sometimes weird shit happens anyway, but you can minimize it. Hey, that was supposed to be a launch. Oh well. It's about to resummon its minions. It's okay. So the thing is, if you kill the minions first time and it resummons them, as long as you take down the main boss, the ads will disappear like by themselves. But the first round, like if you don't kill the first round, you just keep them there all the way until the end. Like you actually have, like when you kill the boss, they don't go away. You actually have to kill them separately. So that's, I don't know if that's a bug or intended or whatever, but yeah, it's just a thing. Okay, time to put wall back up on Vayne. Waste of a good dialogue. But whatever. Let's just... Okay. May possibly be running through skills a lot faster than is advisable, but oh well. Just in case, best to put wall back up on Vayne. Okay. Please, please don't let the attack down debuff land. Don't let it land. Don't let it land. Don't let it land. Don't. Okay. Poison is fine. Poison I can deal with. It's okay. Man, with Selphie it's always like a bit nerve-wracking. Because her debuff prevention ain't 100%, right? So there's a little bit. And like that's a 10-turn attack down debuff, so honestly, I would say that if it lands, just reset the wave. Cause it gimps your damage enough that like you just don't want to bother. Alright, here we go. So let's heal up. And just... heal first. Wall again? No, Vayne still has one turn. Okay, we'll just keep it at that. Okay, from here onwards we want to try to not let the Phoenix get a turn, because if I'm not wrong, it's gonna start HP regenning, which is a pain in the ass. Test it. Okay, wall needs to go back up. And nah. Yeah, HP regen, man. Okay. Layle. Gosh, that's a fair amount of HP that we're losing. Better drain. Okay, around about this time, just start to be a little bit careful, cause the thing about the Phoenix is when it resurrects, it does a AOE Brave attack, and if you do not have at least one member of the team that has Brave, then what happens is you have a full team break, and the Phoenix gets 2 back-to-back turns, and you will be fucked. So just, be careful. Or alternatively, you can also kill the Phoenix in summon. This works too. Yeah, 3 turns in summon is a waste, but I want her aura up. Okay. Okay. So when it resurrects, it clears debuffs, so make sure that you put Layle's force down back on. Okay. God damn it, should have aid there. Because, I mean, the X unbreaks, so it's best that you use it on an enemy, on a target that is currently broken. Right, so if it comes out of break, like, it would have been nice if I used the AA to re-break and then unbreak, re-break with the X. But I was tapping a little bit too quickly. Let's get wall back. We're so close, you guys. No. No, that's not. Good, okay, let's oh yeah, I think we are almost done. Yes! Actually still had skills left on Layle. Oh yeah! Alright. So, hope that was entertaining. Bye!